Chosen one, your spirit is starving. God said, feed it now. Your soul has been waving a flag of distress, but not the kind the world can see. Your outer self might look calm, collected, successful, or even productive. But there's a hidden signal in the spirit realm that God sees, and He's responding. You've been feeling empty, even when everything looks full. You've been pouring out from a cup that's almost dry. And heaven is whispering something urgent now. Your spirit is starving. And God, in His mercy, is no longer going to let you ignore it. The time to feed your inner world is now. Because the truth is, chosen one, many around you may not understand what's going on. They think you're just tired, moody, or maybe just changing. But what they don't see is what's happening inside of you, where heaven and earth touch, where your calling was formed, and where your identity was crowned. That sacred place has been running on fumes. You've been walking, talking, working, living, but not spiritually fed. And the cry from your spirit has now reached the throne room. God is stepping in. He's not asking. He's commanding. Feed it now. Watch this message until the end. Because if your spirit is starving, it means your next level has been trying to break through. But it can't land in a vessel that's empty. You are moments away from divine clarity and supernatural alignment. So stay with this message and write your warmest wishes in the comments and type the number 777. Let the wishes flow, because many of them are about to be fulfilled. Now, chosen one, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. This is not just a general feeling of being tired. This is not about needing more rest, more breaks, more silence. It's something much greater. When your spirit is starving, it affects everything. Your decisions, your vision, your energy, your connection to divine timing. You begin to miss appointments meant for your elevation. You start to second-guess your own greatness. You begin to reach for worldly solutions to a spiritual emptiness. And God, in His deep love for you, is saying, enough. Your spirit was never meant to live off scraps. It was never designed to survive off surface-level encouragement or once-a-week spiritual touchpoints. You, chosen one, were designed to be constantly connected to heaven's source. But here's the thing. The starving doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, subtle, silent. It starts when you ignore the small prompt to pause and pray. It deepens when you substitute spiritual truth with temporary comfort. It worsens when you start treating divine messages like background noise rather than lifelines. And before you know it, you're walking around heavy, confused, burned out. Not because of what you're doing, but because of what you're no longer feeding. You were chosen for something immense. That means your spirit requires more. You can't run on what fed others. You can't thrive on what sustains average people. You need heaven's portion. The daily bread. The secret nourishment that only comes when you prioritize your spiritual connection above everything else. God isn't saying this to shame you. He's saying it because He knows what's coming. He knows what's next. And He knows that you won't survive the next phase malnourished. This is your wake-up call. This is not about religion. This is about divine vitality. It's about preparing your spirit for what it's already been anointed to handle. That storm that shook you, that delay that frustrated you, that door that slammed in your face. All of that could have been God's way of saying, pause, go back and feed what's been starving. And let's be clear, what you feed grows. What you neglect withers. Your gifts have been waiting to expand. Your calling has been hovering, trying to land. But your spirit hasn't been strong enough to receive the full download. Not because you're weak, but because you've been distracted, drained, and distant from your real nourishment. And God, gracious, wise, loving God, is giving you one clear instruction today. Feed it now. Heaven doesn't want your performance. It wants your presence. Your spirit doesn't need applause. It needs alignment. And in order to align, you must feed the parts of yourself that have been on silent starvation for far too long. That means more than just reading a line of encouragement. It means sitting in the presence of God until something shifts inside, until your dry places begin to feel the water again, until your hope gets back up, until your vision is no longer foggy, until your soul stops screaming in silence and starts singing in alignment. You might think you're fine because you're functioning, but surviving is not thriving. You were not sent here to survive. You were sent here to reign. You were sent to represent God's light, His glory, and His goodness in a realm that's starving for real truth. But how can you feed others when you yourself are starving? How can you pour from a vessel that's been dry for so long? The answer is, you can't. And you're not supposed to. That's why God is calling you higher right now. Not to do more, but to receive more. Not to hustle, but to nourish. Not to perform, but to reconnect. And what does feeding your spirit actually look like? It looks like waking up and deciding that nothing matters more than your connection to your Creator. It looks like taking moments of silence, not just to think, but to listen. It looks like speaking life into your atmosphere, even when your emotions don't match. It looks like returning to the Word, not for information, but for transformation. It looks like seeking His voice more than validation, His instruction more than affirmation, His presence more than platforms. Because once your spirit starts getting fed, everything changes. You'll start to see clearly again. You'll regain energy that doesn't make sense in the natural. Your discernment sharpens. Your peace becomes untouchable. Your wisdom flows effortlessly. Doors begin to open, not because of what you did, but because of what you became while feeding your inner world. That's the power of spiritual nourishment. It brings everything back into divine order. And chosen one, let's not pretend like you haven't been feeling the signs. That spiritual dullness, that lack of motivation, that fog that doesn't lift even after you sleep. Those aren't normal. Those are alerts. Heaven has been trying to get your attention through your fatigue, your boredom, your restlessness, your emptiness. But now, today, is your shift. This is your divine notification. The Father has spoken clearly. Your spirit is starving. Feed it now. You've been hungry for purpose. But purpose doesn't land in empty spirits. You've been praying for clarity. But clarity comes to the well-fed. You've been asking for acceleration. But acceleration belongs to the filled, not the faint. So this isn't punishment, it's preparation. God is not rebuking you. He's rebuilding you. But it starts on the inside. It starts where no one else can see. It starts with what you consume, believe, and meditate on. Because whatever you feed becomes your future. The world will keep shouting for your attention. The noise will not stop. The distractions will only increase. But God is offering you something sacred right now. Silence the noise. Reconnect. And feed your spirit like your life depends on it. Because it does. This is not the season to coast. This is the season to be intentional. Every step you take must be spirit-led. And that's only possible when your spirit is fully alive. And here's the truth. No one else can do it for you. This can't be outsourced. This is your divine assignment. Your responsibility. Your turning point. And God, in His infinite wisdom, knew that if He didn't stop you now, you'd miss what's coming. But He won't let that happen. Not to you. You're too valuable, too needed, too essential to the kingdom's unfolding plan. You must rise, and to rise, you must feed what's been hungry too long. Because chosen one, the world needs the full version of you. Not the tired one, not the disconnected one, not the empty one pretending to be whole. The real you, the fed you, the fired up you, the anointed you, And that version is coming alive again. One bite of divine truth at a time. One moment of stillness at a time. One heart-deep alignment at a time. So don't delay. Don't wait for another sign. This is your sign. The moment you begin to feed your spirit, you'll notice something strange, almost like resistance from within and around you. That's because what has kept you empty will fight to keep you that way. Distraction will intensify. Old cycles will try to reappear. Familiar emotions will tempt you to go back to what was once comfortable. But don't be alarmed. That resistance is proof you're stepping into something holy. Your starvation was serving the enemy's plan. But your nourishment, that's heaven's strategy to return you to power. There is a war happening that your natural eyes cannot see. It's not about your job, your relationships, your bank account, or even your reputation. It's a war for your energy, your vision, and your spiritual fuel. The moment you decide to feed your spirit again, every lie you once believed will start to get uncomfortable. Every low-frequency pattern that once numbed you will start to fall apart. That's not destruction. That's deliverance. And God wants you to know, this is your personal exodus. You're coming out of spiritual poverty into divine power. You're no longer going to eat crumbs when you were destined to feast. You see, chosen one, the enemy isn't afraid of your potential. He's terrified of your alignment, because your potential on its own is just a concept. But your alignment, when your spirit is full and synced with God, is unstoppable. That's when doors open without keys. That's when favor flows without explanation. That's when miracles happen on what was supposed to be an ordinary day. And this is exactly what you've been missing. Not opportunity, not wisdom, not open doors, but the internal fuel to recognize them and step boldly into them. That's why God is sounding the alarm. That's why He's calling you out of the numbness. He knows your spirit is capable of greatness, but He also knows it's been underfed. Just like a physical body can't lift weight without nourishment, your spiritual body cannot carry divine responsibility if it's running on survival mode. You've got blessings waiting for you that are weighty. You've got influence, wealth, legacy, and supernatural assignments lined up, but they require spiritual strength. And the only way to carry the weight of divine favor is to feed what's inside of you first. You may have noticed that lately, your patience has been thin. Your joy has felt artificial. Your reactions haven't felt like you. That's not because you're broken. That's because you've been hungry. Spiritually hungry. Emotionally depleted. Mentally overloaded. You've been operating like a spiritual orphan in a kingdom that already gave you the right to sit at the table. And today is the day you remember your seat. Today is the day you pick up your utensils and eat again. Truth, hope, clarity, fire, alignment, love, vision. Because once you start to feed yourself spiritually, everything else begins to change. Organically, powerfully, without the force or push you've become so used to. You won't have to strive to be peaceful. You'll become peaceful. You won't have to pretend to have faith. Your faith will rise naturally. Why? Because your soul is no longer gasping for air. It is full, rooted, grounded, and sustained by divine nutrition that doesn't expire. And this is not just about praying more. It's about prioritizing your spiritual growth like your life depends on it. Because your future absolutely does. Chosen one, what you feed is what you become. If you keep feeding fear, you'll live afraid. If you keep feeding worry, your mind will never rest. But if you start feeding divine truth, peace will be your atmosphere. Boldness will become your language. Grace will surround you like armor. Opportunities will recognize the fire in your eyes and open themselves to you. People will start treating you differently, not because you changed your appearance, but because your spirit started radiating something real, raw, and powerful. This is why God is emphasizing this moment. This isn't just a feel-good reminder. This is a survival protocol. It's a rescue mission from heaven. He's not just trying to inspire you, he's trying to activate you. You've been sitting on treasure while your spirit has been buried beneath dust. But now the winds of awakening are coming, and those winds will shake the dust off, lift your head up, and remind you who you really are. Do not ignore the signs. If your joy feels thin, if your drive has collapsed, if your vision feels foggy, these are all symptoms of spiritual starvation. You don't need to change careers. You don't need a vacation. You need to be fed. You need a spiritual refill that shakes the sleep off your divine mind. And it starts now, not next week, not when you feel better, not when life slows down. Because the truth is, life won't slow down. But you can stop, refocus, and say, God, I'm ready. Feed me again. And He will. The beautiful thing about God is this: no matter how long it's been, the moment you reach out in sincerity, He meets you instantly. He's not counting how many times you fell. He's counting how many times you got up. And this is one of those get up moments. You are not beyond repair. You are not too far gone. You are not too dry to bloom. In fact, your starvation is proof that you're about to bloom even more beautifully than ever before. Don't think of this as punishment. Think of this as preparation. You are about to enter seasons that require clarity, endurance, and wisdom. You're going to be responsible for influence that stretches across generations. You're going to walk into abundance that must be stewarded wisely. You're going to influence people who are still looking for the light you carry. And that's why your spirit needs to be strong. That's why your alignment matters now more than ever. Because if your spirit is right, you will not miss what's meant for you. The biggest threat to your destiny is not what's going on around you. It's what's been going on within you. That low spiritual fuel has kept you tolerating less than you were created for. But today, something is shifting. You can feel it. Your appetite is returning. Your sensitivity to the spirit is awakening. The dullness is lifting. And in its place, your divine instincts are stirring. That's what happens when you feed your spirit. You start to hear differently. You discern things before they happen. You walk with a confidence that doesn't come from ego. It comes from divine nourishment. This is the revival your inner world has been begging for. This is the restoration that your soul has cried out for in secret. You don't need another motivational quote. You need spiritual substance. You need to commune with the divine. You need to rest in sacred truth. You need to inhale purpose and exhale alignment. You need to be so full of God's presence that nothing external can pull you off balance. Let the world do what it does. Let people misunderstand you. Let the chaos outside rage. But you, chosen one, be fed, be focused, be full. Because from this moment forward, you're going to operate from overflow, and that overflow will bless everyone connected to you. Your spirit was never designed to survive in drought. You were born for spiritual rivers. And now that you've come this far into this message, something is already happening. Something is being watered. Something is being stirred. Your inner well is being unclogged. You are remembering how it feels to be whole again. And that's just the beginning. The real transformation begins when you wake up tomorrow and choose nourishment over noise. When you reach for presence instead of performance. When you protect your spiritual energy like the treasure it is. And when you understand deeply, unshakably, that your next level is not coming from a new opportunity. It's coming from a new alignment. You are not starving because you are weak. You are starving because your spirit has outgrown what you've been feeding it. You are evolving. You are awakening. You are leveling up. And this hunger? It's not a curse. It's a call. Feed it now. Chosen one. If you've made it this far in the message, it means you're not just listening. You're answering. Something deep within you is waking up. The hunger that once felt painful is beginning to feel purposeful. You're no longer seeing your spiritual starvation as weakness, but as proof of your divine capacity. God wouldn't call you to feed your spirit if He didn't have a banquet already prepared. You wouldn't be starving unless something glorious was on the other side of your nourishment. But let's go even deeper. Why is this spiritual feeding so critical now? Because we're in a moment of prophetic acceleration. Things are moving quickly. Destinies are unfolding. Kingdom appointments are being released. And only those whose spirits are alert, awake, and fed will recognize what's falling from heaven. Many will miss it, not because they weren't chosen, but because they weren't prepared, because they were too weak to perceive it, because they were too empty to catch it. But you, chosen one, are being invited into the core of what God is doing in this hour. He's not excluding you. He's setting you apart. He's not delaying you. He's deepening you. And this starvation, it was part of the setup. Because now, when He feeds you, you'll never again take the sacred for granted. You'll never again settle for shallow. You'll crave depth. You'll crave truth. You'll crave divine fire. Because you'll know what it feels like to almost spiritually starve. And when you've almost starved, you learn to treasure the table. Now hear this with every cell of your being. God is preparing you for a feast of revelation. Insight is coming. Clarity is coming. New spiritual strength is coming. The fire is returning. And you won't just eat once. You'll live in divine nourishment daily. Because this isn't about getting fed once. This is about becoming a feeder, a light source, a spiritual atmosphere shifter, someone whose presence changes the climate of the room because their soul is on fire with heaven's oil. You were never meant to chase the fire. You were meant to carry it. And if that sounds big, it's because it is. But you're ready. The very reason you've been feeling this starvation is because your assignment is expanding. Your spirit knows it. That's why your old routines stopped working. That's why the way you used to pray no longer feels enough. That's why the old voices can't feed you anymore. You've outgrown what used to sustain you. You've matured, and the new level requires new nourishment. But now comes the next part, the commitment. Feeding your spirit isn't a one-time act. It's a lifestyle, and it starts with awareness. What are you allowing into your mind? What voices are you listening to? What content are you consuming? Every input becomes either food or poison. And you, chosen one, cannot afford to feast on empty calories any longer. Your destiny is too sacred. Your calling is too powerful. Your influence is too impactful. You need high-grade fuel. That means truth. That means prophetic clarity. That means surrounding yourself with fire carriers, not fear carriers. That means unplugging from noise and plugging into divine whispers. That means meditating on what aligns, not just what entertains. That means feeding your spirit until the parts of you that used to feel dry start flowing with fresh oil again. Because, chosen one, this isn't just about you surviving. This is about you becoming the source of revival for others. You're going to feed nations, not necessarily with food, but with light, with faith, with wisdom, with presence. But before you can pour, you must be filled. And that filling starts with consistency. Heaven doesn't need your perfection. It needs your participation. Let's say it again. Your destiny cannot afford your spiritual starvation. You're meant to be the first in your bloodline to break through barriers, to walk in full spiritual identity, to carry generational wealth, not just financial wealth, but spiritual wealth. You're carrying legacy. But legacy can't flow through an empty vessel. It needs a spirit that's strong, steady, grounded, and filled with divine strategy. And this is not just hype. This is a shift. You can feel it. Something in you knows that what's coming next in your life will require more than talent, more than effort, more than personality. It will require depth. It will require spiritual intelligence. It will require inner fire. And that's why God is saying now, feed it. Don't wait until the opportunity arrives. Don't wait until the test shows up. Don't wait until you're in crisis. Feed your spirit now, so when the moment comes, you're already ready. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Starving spirits miss their seasons, and you will not be one of them. Not anymore. You're too aware now. You've been warned. You've been awakened. And now, you're being equipped. With every word you're reading, your spirit is already being nourished. The fog is lifting. The fire is returning. The clarity is forming. And this is only the beginning. What if your next level isn't waiting for a better opportunity? What if it's simply waiting for a better fed version of you? Let that sink in. You've already been chosen. You've already been anointed. You've already been aligned. But now comes the nourishment. Now comes the strength to carry what you prayed for. Now comes the inner capacity to hold the vision without breaking, to steward the wealth without compromise, to walk in purpose without delay. And that only comes when you're full, not of ego, not of fear, not of hustle, but of truth. Chosen one, when your spirit is well fed, you no longer second guess your power. You no longer settle for emotional scraps. You no longer chase what is beneath your calling. You become undeniable, not loud, not arrogant, but undeniable. Because something in you radiates wholeness, and that wholeness begins when you feed the very thing God formed before time began, your eternal spirit. Do not let the world teach you that success is only about what you do. God is teaching you that the real secret to success is in who you become, and that becoming starts with what you feed. You've done enough starving. You've walked long enough in that silent drought. Now it's time to drink again, eat again, rise again. This is your revival. This is your spiritual resurrection. And when you walk in the fullness of it, everything changes. Because when a chosen one is fed, the earth takes notice. Chosen one, you must now understand. When your spirit is full, your entire existence begins to function from a different realm. You stop surviving and start soaring. Your mind sharpens. Your discernment increases. Your joy returns. Not just as a fleeting emotion, but as a fortified foundation. That's what happens when spiritual starvation ends. You begin living from overflow, not depletion. But we need to address something critical. Why is it so hard to stay spiritually fed in today's world? Because distraction has become the enemy's strongest weapon. It doesn't need to destroy you. It just needs to deplete you. It wants to keep you so entertained, so stimulated, so flooded with noise that you forget to nourish your core. You scroll instead of stilling yourself. You reach for external validation instead of internal connection. And slowly, without realizing it, your spirit goes hungry again. That's the trap. And you've been dodging it. But now, you must master it. Being spiritually fed in this generation takes fierce intentionality. It's not passive, it's war, it's daily. And you can't afford to treat your spiritual nourishment like a casual choice. It's your eternal strength source. It's your guiding system. It's your invisible armor. You wouldn't skip meals for weeks and expect to lift a mountain. So how can you expect your spirit to lift generational curses, carry prophetic visions, and walk in kingdom royalty without spiritual fuel? No more shortcuts. No more surface-level feeding. No more hoping one prayer or one video will carry you for a month. That's not enough. Your spirit is called to depth. That means the word becomes your daily meal, not your emergency snack. That means silence becomes your sanctuary, not your punishment. That means worship becomes your weapon, not your afterthought. Because, chosen one, if you could see what's ahead of you, you'd never let your spirit go empty again. If you knew the favor that's lining up, the contracts heaven has signed with your name on them, the doors waiting for your energy signature, you'd feed your spirit like your destiny depended on it. Because it does. Let's make it personal. When your spirit is full, here's what happens. You no longer beg for alignment. Alignment chases you. You no longer panic in silence. You hear in silence. You no longer feel confused about your next step. Your feet know where to go. You become synchronized with heaven's rhythm. You start making decisions that shock your past self. You release what no longer nourishes your growth without guilt. You protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. That's the version of you God is building right now. But He needs you to stop feeding your emotions and start feeding your spirit. Emotions are valid, but they aren't meant to guide you. They're meant to signal you. If you feed only your emotions, you'll always be controlled by what's temporary. But if you feed your spirit, you'll be led by what's eternal. That's the shift. You are being upgraded from emotional reaction to spiritual response. From surface living to soul-led alignment. From crisis to clarity. From dryness to divine flow. And chosen one, don't let guilt hold you back here. Maybe you've neglected your spirit for a long time. Maybe you've allowed yourself to get too wrapped in distractions. Maybe you're just realizing now how spiritually malnourished you've been. That's okay. What matters is this. You're here now. You've answered the call. You've opened your ears. And heaven responds to hunger. God never turns away the one who says, "I'm ready. Fill me again." You may be wondering, how do I begin? You start simple. Start by waking up and acknowledging the spiritual realm first, before the phone, before the news, before the opinions. Start by inviting divine presence into your room, your mind, your day. Start by sitting in silence, not to think, but to listen. Even 5 intentional minutes of spiritual stillness can change the trajectory of your day. And as you build this rhythm, something beautiful happens. Your cravings begin to change. You stop hungering for attention and start hungering for alignment. You stop needing to be liked and start needing to be led. You stop chasing the high of results and start cherishing the root of connection. That's when the miracle happens. You become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you've become stronger. You've been fed. You've been fortified. You've been filled. And the beautiful part? You won't even have to prove it. People will sense it. Rooms will shift when you enter. Favor will track you down. Ideas will come faster. Strategies will arrive in prayer. Divine downloads will be frequent. Why? Because your spirit is in position. You're no longer operating on emergency power. You're living in overflow. And overflow becomes your natural state. But hear this. The world will try to pull you back. Not out of evil, but out of habit. You'll be tempted to go back to what was familiar. You'll be tempted to chase productivity over presence. But don't fall for it. Remember what starvation felt like. Remember the fog, the confusion, the inner dryness. Use it as your reminder. You never want to live there again. You are not a machine. You are a spirit having a human experience. That means your spirit must lead, not your calendar, not your deadlines, not your ego. Your spirit is the throne room of your identity. Protect it, prioritize it, feed it, and don't wait until you're falling apart. Feed your spirit before the next wave comes. Fill up before you're empty. Stay ahead of depletion. Make spiritual nourishment your non-negotiable. Because the version of you that's coming next, that version needs to be whole. That version doesn't have time for confusion. That version is destined to reign. Let's say it again. Starved spirits stumble. Fed spirits fly. Which one will you be? The choice is yours. But I know what God sees in you. He sees power. He sees royalty. He sees someone who's ready to rise into fullness, not just once, but daily. This is not a motivational moment. This is a divine decision point. Heaven is watching. The kingdom is ready. The spiritual realm is opening. And God is speaking directly to your heart. Feed it now. You are already being transformed, even as you receive these words. You are not the same person you were before this message began.